Okay, let's just dive right in. We are unpacking a massive development in specialty cardiology today, a truly landmark moment for Cytokinetics. After a 27-year journey, finally getting FDA approval for their first ever medicine, MYQORZAO.
It really is hard to overstate this. I mean, this is the moment a biotech company, after almost 3 decades, finally becomes a commercial entity. And this approval, it's not just a clinical win. It's really the starting gun for a multi-billion-dollar fight for a major heart condition.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to cut right to the strategic core of this news. We need to understand what makes this drug, MYQRZAO, tick, how Cytokinetics plans to take on the big incumbent Bristol Myers Squibb, and really where the true growth story is. This is the ultimate biotech underdog story finally hitting the big leagues.
Right, so let's lay out the timeline. The formal approval dropped on December 19, 2025. This was for treating adults with symptomatic obstructive hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which we'll just call OHCM. And the goal is pretty straightforward. Improve their ability to function, improve their symptoms, because their heart muscle is essentially working way too hard.
And this wasn't just a U.S. story, which is interesting. It felt very synchronized globally.
Yeah, it was. China's NMPA actually approved it just days before the FDA. And then you had the European Medicines Agency's committee, the CHMP, give a positive opinion earlier in December. So a final EU decision is expected, Q1 2026?
Yeah, so they can hit the ground running with a global launch strategy. Okay, so before we get into the drug, maybe just a quick refresher on the disease itself. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, what's happening in the body?
So it's a genetic condition where the walls of the heart muscle thicken. In the obstructive form, OHCM, that thickening gets so severe, it physically blocks blood from leaving the heart. It creates like a traffic jam, especially when you exert yourself.
A traffic jam in the heart. That's a powerful image. So how does MYQRZAO get in there and clear the road? What's the mechanism?
Well, the drug class itself is fascinating. It's an allosteric and reversible inhibitor of something called cardiac myosin. You can think of cardiac myosin as the little engine that drives the heart muscle's contraction. In OHCM, that engine is just stuck in hyperdrive. This drug is designed to gently tap the brakes.
So it reduces that contractility, which then relieves the physical blockage.
Exactly. It opens up that choke point in the heart, what's known as the left ventricular outflow tract, or LVOT.
It's a precision instrument, and we know it's coming to market fast, second half of January 2026, with a few different dosing options, 5, 10, 15, and 20 milligram tablets.
Right. Now let's talk about the evidence that got them there. The approval was based on the pivotal phase 3 trial, HCM, and the data was, well, it was pretty compelling.
The numbers are impressive, but let's translate them. The primary endpoint was exercise capacity, right? Measured by PVO2.
Yes. Peak oxygen uptake. It's the gold standard for measuring how well a heart failure patient is actually doing in the real world. And patients on the drug saw their PVO2 increase by 1.8 millokilogmen from their baseline, the placebo group. Zero change, just flat. The p-value on that was minuscule.
And a 1.8 increase isn't just a number on a chart. For a patient, that means being able to walk to the mailbox, maybe climb a flight of stairs without getting breathless. It's a huge quality of life improvement.
A huge improvement. And they hit the secondary endpoints too. Better scores on quality of life questionnaires, the KCCQ and SAQ-7. And this is critical, they saw favorable cardiac remodeling, reductions in the left ventricular mass index, or LVMI.
So it suggests the drug isn't just masking symptoms, it might actually be, addressing some of the underlying physical changes in the heart.
It might be, but, and this is the big but, there's a major caveat here. It's central to this whole story. Because the drug is designed to slow the heart muscle, there's a risk it could slow it too much.
Causing heart failure, which is why the drug carries the infamous boxed warning.
Precisely. The risk is a drop in the left ventricular ejection fraction, or LVEF, which is just a measure of how well the heart is pumping blood out. So, like its competitor, you can't start MYQRZAO in patients whose LVEF is already below 55%, and because of that risk, the FDA required a very restrictive safety program.
The REMS program, the Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy. And this actually caused a bit of a delay, didn't it? The PDUFA date got pushed by 3 months.
It did. The FDA came back after the initial submission and said, we need to see your REMS plan. They called it a major amendment. That just shows you how seriously the FDA takes this LVEF risk. It's non-negotiable for this entire class of drugs.
So the REMS program means doctors and patients have to do mandatory monitoring.
Mandatory echocardiograms to keep an eye on that LVEF. If it drops too low, you have to adjust the dose or stop the drug entirely. Though it is worth noting that in the trial, they managed this risk very well. The only common adverse reaction was hypertension, and they had no cases of heart failure, forcing someone to stop the drug because of a super low LVEF.
Okay, so that sets the stage for the main event, the market battle. Cytokinetics, the 27-year-old startup, is now going head-to-head with Bristol Myers Squibb and their drug, Camzyos. And the irony is, Cytokinetics actually helped develop Camzyos years ago.
It's an incredible storyline, and Camzyos is already a blockbuster, bringing in over $600 million a year. So this is a real fight.
So if the core safety risk, the LVEF monitoring, the REMS, is the same for both drugs, how does Cytokinetics win? They have to give doctors a very compelling reason to switch.
They do. And that reason comes down to one thing: pharmacokinetics, or PK. Basically, how the drug behaves in the body.
So it's about speed and simplicity.
Exactly. Specifically, titration speed. The incumbent, Camzyos, has a really long half-life. It takes a long time to build up in the system and a long time to wash out. That means for the first 3 months, patients need an echo every single month.
That's a huge burden for the patient, for the clinic, for scheduling.
It's a massive burden. MYQRR-ZOO was engineered to be better. It has a rapid onset, and more importantly, you can titrate the dose every 2 weeks. This gives a physician so much more control. If they see the LVEF dip, they can adjust the dose and see the effect quickly, instead of waiting a whole month.
But is that speed alone enough to overcome the inertia of doctors who are already used to the Camzyos REMS program?
Maybe not alone. But here's the other part of the 1-2 punch. The drug interaction profile. Camzyos has a lot of interactions with other common heart drugs, things that affect the P450 enzyme system in the liver. It's complex to manage. MYQRR's label has no requirement for that kind of drug interaction monitoring.
Oh, that's a big deal. For a cardiologist managing patients on multiple medications, that simplifies things dramatically.
It's the true commercial differentiator. Faster titration plus a cleaner interaction profile. That's the pitch.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's zoom out now to the big picture, the market opportunity. How big is this prize they're fighting for?
It's huge. HCM is not some rare disease. We're talking 700,000 to over 1 million patients in the U.S. alone, and about 65% of those have the obstructive form, OHCM. That's the currently approved market.
Yeah.
Just that initial market is estimated at about $1 billion annually.
And analysts are throwing around some big peak sales numbers. I've seen up to $4 billion just for OHCM, but some are talking about $10 billion if everything goes right.
That $10 billion number is all about market expansion. And their commercial strategy reflects that focus. They're not building a massive general sales force. They're building a highly specialized cardiology team. They know that about 10,000 cardiologists treat roughly 75% of all HCM patients.
So it's a very concentrated prescriber base. You can be lean and targeted.
Exactly. They're doing what they call a gated build, hiring most of their reps right around the approval to be super efficient.
But the real game changer, the thing that gets you from that $4 billion number to the $10 billion number, that has to be non-obstructive HCM or NHCM.
Absolutely. That's the holy grail. The NHCM segment is another 250,000 to 400,000 patients in the U.S. And here's the key. They currently have no effective medical treatments. Nothing. They don't have the physical blockage, but they have all the symptoms from that thick, dysfunctional heart muscle. If Aficamten works there, it's a whole new world.
And that's the phase 3 HCM trial. That's the next big catalyst for the company.
That's the one. It's fully enrolled. We're expecting top-line results in the first half of 2026. If that data is positive, they don't just steal market share from BMS. They create a brand new market that was completely untapped. That NHCM segment could eventually be half of the entire HCM population. A win there makes them the undisputed market leader.
And it's important to remember this isn't just a one-trick pony. This success validates their entire muscle biology platform.
It really does. They have other assets moving forward. Omecamtiv mecarbil, which is a cardiac myosin activator, it actually speeds up the heart motor for patients with very severe heart failure. And they have another inhibitor, ulacamten, for a different type of heart failure called HFpEF.
So they're using what they learned, making a heart slower, to also make a heart faster. That's a powerful pipeline. And financially, they seem to be in a good spot to execute on all this. They had about $1 billion in cash as of mid-2025.
Solid footing. The launch is paid for,
Yeah.
and the big pipeline bets are fully funded.
Okay. We've covered the approval, the data, the competitive edge, and the massive expansion opportunity. This brings us to our final segment,
where we distill all of this down into a single high-conviction idea.
This is not financial advice, but if you were going to pitch this story aggressively based on everything we've talked about, what's the trade?
I think the thesis is very clear. You go long Cytokinetics,
Yeah.
and you're betting aggressively on a positive result from that Phase 3 ACACIA HCM trial in NHCM. Right now, the market is valuing the company as a strong competitor in the OHCM space, a company that's going to fight BMS for market share.
But that's not where the real upside is.
No. The true alpha, the massive re-rating of the stock, only happens if they successfully break into that non-obstructive market. If Acacia hits, they instantly change the entire conversation. They go from fighting over a piece of the pie to baking a whole new, even bigger pie that they own completely. It moves those peak sales forecasts from the $4 billion range toward that $10 billion bull case. It's a bet on market creation, not just market share. So it's a binary bet on the science, but the payoff is enormous.
A bet that they can become the standard of care across the entire spectrum of this disease.
That's the bet.
All right, to wrap this up, Cytokinetics has finally done it. Their first FDA approval with MYQRRZO, setting up a fascinating showdown with BMS's Camzyos and obstructive HCM.
The competitive edge seems to be a faster, simpler dosing and monitoring schedule. But the real long-term value hinges completely on that Acacia HCM trial in non-obstructive patients coming next year.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with. Since both of these drugs, MYQRZO and Camzyos, have the exact same fundamental burden, the REMS program, the LVEF monitoring, will that convenience factor be enough? Is a cleaner drug interaction profile and a 2-week titration schedule a big enough carrot to make cardiologists switch their habits and really drive this drug to that multi-billion-dollar potential? It really comes down to whether that clinical convenience can overcome practice inertia.
It's a fascinating question, especially since they help build the foundation for both drugs.
As always, thank you for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next analysis.
Disclaimer. We are not licensed financial advisors, and this is not financial advice. All information presented is for educational purposes only.